Welcome to Convertium AI Podcast, Grit and Growth, where we explore how artificial intelligence is transforming construction, real estate, and asset management. I'm your host, Jessica Hobirk. Each week, I sit down with industry leaders who are navigating change in real time, from property managers, investors, to construction professionals, to uncover how AI is creating smarter, faster, and more scalable operations. Today's episode is all about the impact of AI on construction and asset management. We have our guest here, Courtney Parks, who is principal, broker, and director of operations at Allegiance Property Management. Courtney, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and your business?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Jessica. Thank you for having me. I am in my 16th year of doing asset management, formerly known as property management. We are experiencing the rebrand in real time, which I love.
Yes.
I'm the principal broker and the director of operations for Allegiance Property Management. We're a residential management firm located in Alexandria, Virginia. So we cover the Northern Virginia landscape. We manage just under 300 doors. We do have a small commercial division, and we're a full service management firm. So we really aim to appeal to either the traditional investor or the accidental landlord. A lot of our clients are State Department, Foreign Service, military. We have a lot of
Yes.
clients that rent their property out and then end up returning. It's not necessarily like your traditional book of investors who, might buy and then not set foot in the property. Our landscape is quite different because of where we live and the large government and military presence. So I've been a licensed realtor since 2012, and I've been running this company roughly since around the same time I joined in 2009. And kind of got my feet wet, worked my way up the ranks to partner, and very involved in the landscape of asset management and kind of what it's turned into.
That's really, really awesome. It's always nice to see another woman in the business who has worked their way up. It's no small feat for us. That's super awesome.
Yes.
So, from your perspective, what is the biggest operational challenge property managers face today that you believe AI could probably help solve?
I think the biggest operational is obviously property management, asset management is a people first industry, and people hire us to make their lives easier, right? If you have an investment property, it's usually someone's largest asset, and they want someone to protect it from, a financial standpoint, but it's also an emotional asset. So I think in terms of AI for us is helping eliminate and automate those day-to-day tasks, those repetitive tasks that keep us more organized, documentation, but then it frees up our time so that we can have those human interactions that kind of keep people coming back for more, and they get that warm and fuzzy at the end of the day that their home is being well cared for. Again, not just their asset, but their emotional asset, their home that maybe they, brought their kids home to from the hospital or
Mhm.
got married and started their family. So for us, it's what can we systematize and make more efficient so that we have the availability to have those conversations when they're necessary.
Exactly. So that moves into my next question. How do you see AI tools changing the way tenant communication, maintenance request, and maybe even financial reporting is handled within your business?
For us, we use PropertyMeld, which is a very, very popular maintenance scheduling tool. They have a ton of automation, a ton of AI features. We're seeing a lot of help in the initial triaging of maintenance requests. A tenant can go in after hours and submit something, and they're automatically getting that chat back to, is this a garbage disposal issue? Is this an emergency? Is this something the tenant can get real-time help and kind of mitigate on their own, or does it need to be escalated to an emergency? They are able to schedule with a vendor so much quicker because of the software tools that we're using. They're able to call in and actually have conversations with AI agents. There's another company out there called Vendero that has a very similar structure where maintenance and either the satisfaction with maintenance or the dissatisfaction is one of the driving reasons why tenants renew the lease, which is going to be a direct correlation with return on investment. So we're seeing that maintenance it needs to be automated. It needs to be systematized in a way where tenants are getting real-time attention, that way we're not sitting by the phone 24/7, but they're getting that real-time attention. And then it's also driving costs down for the owner if we're not having unnecessary maintenance requests. We're not sending someone out for every little thing. So I think that would be one of the big reasons that we're seeing automation and AI in the maintenance world, especially with work orders. With rent payments, we have automated reminders going out, the online portal, live chats on websites. There's just so many ways that we are trying to appeal to the modern day tenant so that they can get those real time answers. And in terms of like internal automations and AI, we rely really heavily on we have our whole system is set up in Google Suite, and they have a great function called Google NotebookLM where you can create kind of an internal chat GPT for your staff to go in. So they're able to ask questions to kind of this internal chat GPT, which is freeing up my time as the director. I have one kind of network of information where they can go and get those answers, and they're not having to always ask a question and kind of disrupt someone else's day, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's awesome. On those other two that you were talking about, the property meld and stuff like that, does it also do predictive maintenance for you guys? Does it have those kind of tickets?
Yeah, absolutely. You can set up
Awesome.
recurring work orders. It also gives you like your average spend per unit. It gives
Nice.
you an average cost of what people are paying for certain systems. Like, let's say you need to replace a water heater and your client is contesting the cost of it. It has real time data where you can say, actually, this is kind of the going rate of what this cost. We saw huge price jumps after COVID, and we've had clients that weren't caught up to that and
Mhm.
weren't really expecting that they would need to invest 20 grand in an HVAC unit. You hear everybody, the most common is like, the last time I painted my house, I spent 2,000.
Mhm.
Everything is more expensive. And so having that data to rely on and say, actually, Mr. Owner, this is what you've spent to date this year. And it's actually in line with what other investors are putting into their home. So you're not
Exactly.
overspending. You're
Peer to
keeping,
peer.
yeah,
Definitely. And then after COVID, everything definitely jumped through the roof.
so
HVAC,
expensive.
the trades,
Labor,
labor got more expensive. The got
yes.
quality got worse.
Yeah. Well, and that's why maintenance is such a tricky subject. There's so many layers involved, and it's such a direct impact on whether
Mhm.
your tenant is happy or not. And I always think like happy tenants correspond to happy clients. And it's just,
Mhm.
if your tenant is happy in there, they're going to keep renewing the lease. They're going to want to pay rent on time. They're going to want to care for the property, and that
Less turnover.
ROI is going to go up.
Exactly. Especially less turnover, less, all that.
Turnover is, I think, an owner's worst nightmare, that we
Mhm.
really prioritize retention over, even if it means, over increasing rent, because at the end of the day, you're going to lose more money if you lose that tenant.
Exactly. Because then you have to do all your updates and then you got to qualify a new tenant to get in there and just
Yes.
start the old piece. So it's easier to retain than it is to replace.
Yep.
So some people worry that AI kind of removes the human touch in property management. How do you balance efficiency with your personal service?
For us, I think it really depends on what are you trying to use AI for. AI is never going to replace one of your key team members. And I think that's the mistake some companies are they're going all in on AI or all in on what can I automate? When you automate, you make mistakes sometimes too because you're dealing with a computer. Same thing with AI. You are removing that human aspect of it. So for us, we've really looked at what are the day-to-day tasks that are repetitive and have the least amount of error, even human error, and
Mhm.
then freeing up the time for those personalized emails and getting on the phone with a client, being able to free up your time so I can have quarterly reviews with my clients or make myself available to that tenant who wants to have a conversation ahead of the lease renewal. So for me, I think it's not overloading on AI so much that you don't want your clients to really know you're using it, right? It's this fine line of you want to appear organized and on top of everything. And so some of the automations for us are lease renewals. We have an automated text and email that goes out 90 days out, goes out to the owner, and it tells them, hey, your lease is coming up for renewal. if you don't respond to this, we're going to go ahead and move forward with a renewal. So it's almost like, don't worry, we're taking care of it, but it opens the door for them to respond. And that's something I don't have to think about. It's happening every month, whether I remember it or not, and it's starting
That's
that
fine.
trigger. Same thing with our move in and move out flows within our workflow. We're able to automate those notices so that the tenant knows I need to disable my automatic payment that's going out, or I need to set up utilities. Every tenant has utilities. So that's something we were able to systematize. And then we can have that time for the conversation for the unique one offs on the property that's going to make them feel like it's more of a personalized experience for the home they're about to move into.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Looking ahead, where do you see the greatest opportunities for AI to impact property and asset management over the next 3 to 5 years, you think?
If they can continue working on the maintenance realm, I think that, to me, the most time labor-wise spent from an internal is, managing the turns and managing the maintenance. So the more that these companies like Meld or Vendero can really try to figure out the magic, way to handle that, I think that's going to make everyone's lives better. We've seen a lot of improvements in self-showings, lock boxes, being able to qualify tenants quicker, being able to get rid of unqualified leads before they even hit your inbox. We've
Nice.
already seen so many different paths forward in this industry. I think maintenance would be the biggest section that still needs. No one has figured out maintenance yet. They've gotten pretty good, but no one has cracked the code, in my opinion.
What do you think are the key takeaways from maintenance that you think could be improved on? What are the things that you're seeing that they might fall short on that you
Mm,
think could be improved? I know this is off one of our questions, but
yeah,
just want
yeah.
to.
I think the hard part with maintenance is it's not cookie cutter, especially when you have a diverse portfolio. You're not managing, like a high rise apartment where every unit might have the same equipment in
Variation.
there, the same HVAC, and then you have your one-off clients. So I think part of it is probably internally us as property managers, as asset managers, setting the tone with the client and using our authority to be the ones making those decisions and knowing what work orders need to be authorized and knowing when the client really needs to get involved. So part of it isn't necessarily maybe a software issue. It might just be the nature of maintenance, and I'm not sure. I'm not really sure what the next step would be. Part of it is internal on us as me as the company owner operator as well.
It seems like it would be like beneficial to have like some sort of AI automation that actually has a threshold per client on what they're willing to let you spend,
Yes, and we
like
do, and
up to
that's.
$500 and then trigger.
Yes. Yeah, I think the problem is if you look at maintenance on like a national scale, every state has different regulations for what is considered an emergency or what is considered, does this tenant need to be relocated for mold? How many days do you have? There's all these ins and outs, which
Mhm.
also add to the layer of like, it's not just a maintenance request. And that's the problem when you're dealing with artificial intelligence. If you have a tenant on the end, they're getting better at deciphering tone, but if you have a fire that needs to be put out, not literally, but figuratively with a tenant,
Mhm.
is that AI agent going to know when it needs to be escalated? So I think that's going to be the big thing. There's some things that can be triaged, but the last thing you want is a tenant getting frustrated because they're not able to get to a resolution in a timely manner.
Exactly. Protocols in place for the AI to, this scale it like 1 to 10. Like, is
Yes.
this an active leak? Is this, to do with your heating and AC? Because in Florida, can't have an elderly person in a 90 something plus degree house,
Well,
you know,
exactly. Yeah.
like that. But
Yep.
I do think AI is getting a lot smarter and a lot better. There's some really amazing programs out there that will be able to differentiate between voice and tone eventually, and we're probably
Mhm.
not gonna know the difference between us talking to an AI or, are we talking to a person at some point?
Right, right. Yeah, it's amazing the strides that have already been taken in this industry. I mean, I remember talking about ChatGPT just a few years ago when it first kind of, became a thing.
Mhm.
And even that improvement that we've seen in what you can do with ChatGPT and the custom GPTs and detecting tone and putting an email in there and being able to decipher how you should respond to it. It's incredible. I use it. My entire team, we have a shared account and custom GPTs for each department. and it has all of our information in there. So it's just this internal source of who we are as a company. It already has our knowledge, our brand in there, and
That's
then being
awesome.
able to respond. It's just making Monday tasks like responding to an email that much more efficient.
Definitely. Supplemental. Good
Mhm.
use of supplemental AI. That way
Yeah.
it's not replacing us, but
Yeah.
just supplementing what we do and making our life a little bit more efficient and a little bit more easy.
Yeah, and as we look at DLER is like a KPI we track in asset management, direct labor, employee, how many doors can you manage per employee? And you don't want to overwork your employees, but if you give them the tools to get more done in a certain
Mhm.
time frame, then you are able to theoretically manage more doors with not as many, team members. That's less I for me that's perfect. I'm more profitable and I have less people I have to manage.
Have you seen a notable change since you've implemented PropertyMeld and the vendor for your door count per employee?
We've gone through we've recently, I would say within the past 2 years, gone through a pretty big shift in our organizational chart. We have 3 employees that live remotely, so we've really opened up to remote team members and international talent, and that
That's
in itself has saved us money and made us a more forward customer-facing client property. Like, someone can call and it just the more team members you have available, to be available to those residents and those investor clients when they're calling in. But you're not paying as much money as someone who would be in Virginia with me. And the talent is just by far exceeding my expectations. So that has even been more profitable than any software I've gotten.
I can imagine. I can definitely manage. But I really appreciate you coming on the show today. I would like you to tell people how to get in touch with you or if you want to talk a little bit more about your services and anything that you guys are working on currently. Feel free to take a few moments and do some shameless self promotion.
I love it. Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn, Courtney Parks. You can also find me on Facebook, Courtney Parks. My website is allegiancepm.com. We service all of Northern Virginia. I would love to partner. We take referrals from realtors. If you have a client who is looking for asset management in the Northern Virginia area, I would love to help them out. I'm very involved in NARPM, the National Association of Residential Property Managers. I am the president of our local chapter. So if you're listening to this and you're in property management, either on the vendor side or the PM side, I'd love for you to reach out and get involved in our chapter. It's fun, and it's the big takeaway is just being able to connect with other folks who are doing what we're doing, and kind of, the industry is so it's ever changing, and having someone else that's kind of dealing with those changes in real time with you is priceless. So, yeah.
Definitely. Thank you so much for coming on the show. You've really helped show the audience that AI is just not a buzzword, that it's already shaping property managers and asset operators with their communications, their reporting, and their day to day. Thank you for sharing your information. I'm sure that somebody somewhere in the land will reach out. Again, I'm super excited to learn more about you and your business. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I hope you have a wonderful day.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.